So for today's occasion, I will present a glimpse into artistic work of Marko Peljhan, a Slovenian-born artist who was trained as theater and radio director. And as my background is also from theater, I became acquainted with his work during our collaboration on a series of theater productions between 1992 and 1995. And this transformation will be mainly the subject of my talk today. So this transformation, I believe, is directly connected to the experience of the war in Yugoslavia, which arrived at its peak with Srebrenica massacre in July of 1995. The beginning of the 1990s, when Peljhan started his artistic journey, were times when, as Eric Hobsbawm put it, the collapse of the communist regimes between Istria and Vladivostok not only produced an enormous zone of political uncertainty, chaos and civil war, but also destroyed the international system that had stabilized international relations for some 40 years. End of quote. And I found this quote especially appropriate for this occasion, as I'm delivering this presentation in a place which is at least symbolically close to Vladivostok, while the major shift that in Peljhan artistic development took place on the Istrian island of Krk, or more specifically at the island's desert-like a landscape called the Moon, Mjesec. Before we get to what happened at the Moon, let me first briefly introduce Peljhan's work in very, very general terms. He links his own point of departure to his Projekt Atoll manifesto. Projekt Atoll is the name of the organization that he founded in '92, through which he still produces most of his work. In 1993, he wrote, "The end of this century is the era of erosion of utopias constituted in its beginning. The revolutionary strategies have failed. New social organisms, orders have not been successfully implemented. Physical imperial power have transformed themselves into intangible, invisible forces that control and dominate the social, spiritual, and economic fields." This was written after the war in Yugoslavia that followed Slovenia's and Croatia's declaration of independence in 1991 had already become perhaps denied, if not in a spot of conflict, but yet frustrating living conditions for millions of newly called former Yugoslavians. "The decision to use art in the present state," wrote Peljhan in the continuation of his manifesto, "is not an efficient solution to the new problems with which we are confronted. People as end of quote. People as individuals have less and less influence over arriving social situations in which they became hostages." In his 1996 lecture, The Art of Collecting Information about the Art of Warfare, he already comes to the conclusion that art is in a very submissive role when compared with science and technology, although its role is equally important for the healthy development of modern, technologically driven societies. Artists can only speculate about the vision of the future, which is already the very reality of the pilot sitting in the cockpit of supermodern military aircraft. So the question was, is there a way for contemporary artists to change this condition? And if so, what would that change take? This was the question that led Peljhan to his early 1990s research of the global market dealing with the most up-to-date military technologies. As a regular reader of the magazines such as Aviation Technology Week and similar publications, he responded to various advertisements offering highly specialized military technologies to anybody who would afford to buy it on the open global market. presenting himself as the director of his organization Projekt Atoll. This way, he thus established contacts with the corporations specialized in producing and selling new radio and satellite navigation technologies and new systems of surveillance and advanced telecommunication systems. After a few weeks, he was receiving huge amounts of thick envelopes with offers containing catalogs promoting various new military technologies. This became a valuable source from which he would derive ideas as well as technological information and guidelines for many projects developed in the following years. Most of them part of an ongoing series called Resolution Systems. The project Territory 1995 that I'm planning to present more in detail today, and the project Trust 15 present at the exhibition Grammars of Freedom, they are both part of this resolution series. And the task of resolutions, in short, is that they all seek tactical solutions to acute problems rising in different parts, in different social contexts, so that they utilize art and its distribution system as a territory where the ideas and solutions can be presented and shared with the audience. Let me very briefly present a few projects from this series. Terminal from 1996, first presented in the exhibition Sense of Order, curated by Zdenka Badovinac, is rhythmically changing display of global aviation navigation charts supported by real-time communications between the aircraft and flight controllers. They were intercepted using a wide-band radio receiver system and an antenna from the Trival company. This was Trival, a Slovenian company producing antennas for army, and were following various military flights that during the war in Bosnia flew over Slovenia toward the Bosnian no-fly zone. The motivation for the project was very simple. The sky over Slovenia has gone silent and empty on June 25, 1991, due to the start of the armed conflicts in former Yugoslavia. Southern Communicator is identically conceived project adapted to South Africa's skies. It was presented in Johannesburg in 1997. The project was later advanced by adding real-time geographical display of flights over Eastern Europe that Peljhan conceived in collaboration with Deutsche Flugsicherung, the German air traffic control authority. Other projects from this series are UCOG 144 from 1996, that is utilizing the GPS technologies a few years before they become massively available. At that time, only police and official institutions like that were using that kind of technologies. And my point in continuation will be that the study of what was going on in the technical, scientific, military debate and market made Peljhan to always be, with his project, introducing the technological solution that will become in the following years more massively present in our life. So the next project is EST Sounddown from 1998. That I will say something more about this project, but unfortunately don't have the slide. And the Trust System 15 that is presented, as I said, in the exhibition. They all, this project all apply highly specialized and inaccessible technologies and redirect their use for civil or art purposes. So for the audience here, I thought it will be most appropriate to briefly say something about the Sounddown project created for Manifesta 2 in Luxembourg in 1998. This project featured a fictive or apocryph kind of, but nevertheless very detailed, planned into a detailed military plan for a shadow force attack on the state of Luxembourg, a microstate operating as a clearinghouse for Western sovereign and corporate finance. Especially on the NATO institution and the SWIFT international banking transfer computer system situated in Luxembourg. The attack was presented to come from a technically savvy para-state military base located in Crimea, of all the places, and was supposed to utilize former Soviet weapons then available on the black markets across the region. So this was as it's obvious from the date, a few years before the international terrorism became such a big issue in our life. And also the story that I'm trying to point out is that these technologies that Peljhan is using and exploring are available on the market. Everybody can buy them if people have money for that. So. But let's now go back to the moon, where Peljhan decided to convert his performance art practice into quite a different format that was later called and developed as MacroLab project that was in operation between 1997 and 2007. This is how Peljhan described this transformative moment. It was a sunny late winter day in 1994. The location is the island of Krk, Adriatic Sea, Croatia. The majestic, Mjesec landscape above Baška, a spectacular sight, monumental, barren, cold. And in the distance, Lika and further east, Udbina and Bihać, war. For the last week, he was there with his crew, theater crew that was just working on the production, theater production of Velimir Hlebnikov play. So he said, we were discussing what comes next if this war will rage on. What is next for us, the creators of the landscape of the future? We have been discussing what the theater of the future should look like, what it should do, how to start living outside the three axes of Euclid and start understanding the laws of the fourth, the axis of time, so much revered by Velimir Hlebnikov, the language magician, the author of Vladomir, the discoverer of the laws of time, the inventor of tables of destiny. So what later became Peljhan's major project called MacroLab emerged from this moment and is further described as a stage that appears stage, like theater stage, not a stage in something, next stage, for example, that appears on the horizon and walks slowly forth. On it, the sailors of Vladomir work the spinnaker of thought. Large sails propel it forward. A complex mechanism allows its legs to lift and twist. There are no metal noises. The materials are new and unknown. It does have legs and it looks like an insect. It has the functionality and energy balance of a bee and the armor of the Argamedon cockroach. Between 1997, when MacroLab sketches were first fully realized on the hill above the town of Kassel, Germany, in the framework of Documenta 10, and 2007, when it officially closed, MacroLab project visited many remote locations across the globe. Rottnest Island in Western Australia, atoll estates in Scottish Highlands, Isola di Campalto, Venice, Italy, Veliki Kras in Slovenia, the coast of Santa Barbara, California. And during this duration, it also changed its look, its skin once. So the MacroLab project was described as an ongoing mobile laboratory set up for the open and integral research and common work of artists. scientists and tactical media workers in the field of telecommunications, migrations research, water and climate. It functioned as closed and isolated, insulated environment, which in its inner structure, the structure of the micro-social event, said Peljhan in an interview, functioned as a communication center and a reflective tool. As I understand it, this urge for isolation has something to do with the well-known fact that in the era of information society, we are all caught into interiorized social situations controlled by media and other distributors of information. We are all, as Felix Guattari would say, semiotically enslaved and kept hostages of modern information interiors. So in order to be able to reflect on this condition, we have to generate the outside of the media-controlled complexes. I would just like to add that these modern interiors, are also the interiors that are protected, that sometimes the outside of these interiors is pure doom. It's a war. It's something that Bosnian people were experiencing at this time. So, and this is exactly what did Macrolab. It created a condition to look and explore the electromagnetic spectrum through which we are socially navigated from the outside position. It took Peljhan more than 10 years since 1994 when he was observing the deserted landscape in Croatia, a landscape impregnated with the feeling and remote signs of war, to develop the strategy and tools with which he could approach the deconstruction of this feeling and the war that completely changed our life. It was a new type of war which started showing its features beginning with Gulf War and then continued in the war in Yugoslavia and beyond. This new type of warfare, as pointedly articulated by Achille Membe in his essay Necropolitics, allows the modality of killing that does not distinguish between the external and internal enemy. Entire populations are targets. The besieged villages and towns are sailed off and cut off from the world. Only an uncanny lack, the end of quote, decides on which side the civil person ends up. On the side where people get killed by invisible snipers or get caught into the trap of mass massacre, or on the side that watches what is happening to the distorted and alienating lenses of TV news. I finally, I hope it's not too late, arrived to the point where I can speak about territory 1995 to 2009. In 2006, Peljhan started exploring the possibilities of deconstructing with the means of his artistic tool one of the most gruesome events in the Yugoslav war, the Srebrenica massacre, a genocidal killing in July of 1995 of more than 8,000 Bosniaks, mainly men and boys, in and around the town of Srebrenica. So what happened there? In 1993, the United Nations declared the besieged enclave of Srebrenica in the Drina Valley of northeastern Bosnia a safe area under UN protection. However, in July of 1995, the United Nations Protection Force, or UNPROFOR, represented on the ground by a 400-soldier-strong contingent of Dutch peacekeepers, did not prevent the town capture by the army of Republika Srpska and the subsequent massacre. Exploring this case, Peljhan learned that besides the survivors' memories, forensic evidence on the ground, and the satellite photos that provided a silent witness to the brutality on the ground, one other damaging piece of evidence remained, and that was the spectral trace of military communications that prepared, executed, and later tried to hide the evidence of genocide. Trials that were intercepted, recorded, decoded, and catalogued by a small force of tactical intercept operators using very basic equipment in the strategic positions in eastern Bosnia. So early into his research, Peljhan got in contact with Hasan Nuhanovic, a former interpreter for the UNPROFOR in SAFE era, who has been battling the Dutch state in civil court since 2002 and won the appeal in 2011. Hasan's entire family, a mother, father, and brother, were murdered in Srebrenica massacre when they were refused after seeking refuge in the UN Protection Force base at Potočari. Hasan introduced Peljhan to a group of people who were involved in the interception of Serb army telecommunications and were willing to talk, open their memories and their archives that help him to understand and reveal the role of tactical and strategic communications and their record in the execution of genocide in today's world. So the results of the 3 years of research in Srebrenica case was an installation first presented in Istanbul Biennial in 2009 that consists of 2 parts. I'll just quickly slide through how this installation looked. The Territory 1995 room with audio recordings of Serbian military and paramilitary forces communicating during Krivaja operation and maps created by Peljhan with forensic communication mapping software and algorithms that were first implemented during Macrolac project. The second part of the installation is a documentary archive consisting of maps, court documents of the International Criminal Tribunal for former Yugoslavia and literature related to the Srebrenica genocide and the wider context of the brutal war on the territories of former Yugoslavia between 1991 and 1995. The project was developed further and was acquired by Van Aben Museum in Eindhoven, Holland in 2010, where it is now on view as part of the museum collection. For the end, I know I'm probably a little bit over my time, but it's an interesting detail. Therefore, I would like to pursue it. So for the end, just a few more words about the formal and material aspect of Room 1 installation. The formal principles that were taken, the formal principle for this piece were taken for Peljhan's a year earlier were called Ladomir AB 7 Surfers, which was presented at the Poetry Festival in Slovenia and was dedicated to Peljhan's lasting inspiration with the work of Velimir Hlebnikov, especially his poem Ladomir and Tablets of Destiny. So this project consisted of a special edition book that included Peljhan's text about the importance of Hlebnikov for his work. And the poem translated, the poem in Russian original language and English and Slovenian translations. And the books were also part of installation. So, the book was also part of the installation together with 3 plates structured from Hlebnikov's handwritten tablets and Peljhan's additions and interpreted calculations and were machine etched using a software program that Peljhan has written. The plates were etchings of the tablets of destiny calculations and placed one after the other lit from their edges. So they mirrored each other and created completely new poetical and mathematical structure. The technique was then used also in the creation of Territory in 1995. And that will be it. Thank you very much.